When did you first realize your childhood wasn't like everyone else's? I used to think everyone's house sounded like mine. Quiet, but not peaceful. The kind of quiet that makes you listen harder, waiting for something to break it. When I was little, I thought every kid's mom locked their bedroom door at night. I thought everyone's dad came home smelling like gasoline and silence. You don't question what you grow up in. You just assume it's the same everywhere else. It wasn't until I was 10 that I realized how different my world really was. My best friend at the time, Emma, invited me over for her birthday sleepover. I was nervous. I'd never been allowed to stay anywhere overnight, but mom had to work a night shift, so she said yes. The moment I walked into Emma's house, it felt like stepping onto another planet. There were photos on the walls, family portraits, vacations, goofy candids. Their living room smelled like cookies and cinnamon. Her mom smiled when she saw me and said, "We're so happy you could come, sweetheart." Sweetheart. No one had ever called me that before. That night, we watched movies, ate popcorn, and laughed until my stomach hurt. Around 11 p.m., Emma's mom poked her head in and said softly, "All right, girls, lights out soon." Her voice wasn't angry or sharp, just kind, gentle. When the lights went off, I kept waiting for the yelling, the footsteps, the crash, the tension that always came after dark at my house. But nothing happened. Just silence. Safe silence. I didn't sleep. I lay there on the floor staring at the ceiling, realizing this is how it's supposed to feel. When I got home the next morning, mom was asleep on the couch, still in her work uniform, a half-empty bottle of cheap vodka on the table. The TV was blaring static. I turned it off and quietly started cleaning up. That became my routine. Making breakfast, getting myself ready, tiptoeing so I wouldn't wake her. I'd tell my teacher she was sick when she didn't show up for meetings, but after that night at Emma's, I couldn't unsee it anymore. I noticed how my clothes always smelled faintly of cigarettes when no one else's did. How my classmates got picked up from school with hugs while I walked home alone. How other kids' parents came to school plays while I stood on stage scanning the crowd, pretending not to care that my seat was empty. Still, I loved her. She wasn't a bad person, just a tired one. Life had beaten her down long before I ever showed up. She worked double shifts, sometimes triple, just to keep the lights on. But when the bills piled up or the loneliness got too loud, the bottle was easier than talking. I remember once, when I was 12, she came home and found me cooking dinner. She just stood there for a long moment, then whispered, "You shouldn't have to do this." I smiled and said, "It's okay, Mom. I don't mind." But that night, I cried in my room because I did mind. I wanted to be a kid. The real moment, the one that changed everything, came when I was 15. Emma invited me on a family trip to the mountains. Her parents said they'd cover everything, even my meals. I told Mom, and she said flatly, "You're not going. We don't take handouts." We fought hard. I said things I never thought I'd say. Told her she was selfish. Told her she never acted like a mom. She slapped me, hard enough to leave a mark. That night, I sat on the floor of my room and packed a small bag anyway. I didn't run away. Not really. I just went to Emma's and stayed there until her mom called mine and convinced her to let me stay the weekend. That trip was the first time I felt free. We hiked. We laughed. We sat around a campfire making s'mores. And one night, Emma's dad looked at me and said, "You're always welcome here, kid. You know that, right?" Something in me broke. Not in a bad way, but in a way that makes space for something new. I realized then that love didn't have to be earned through silence or obedience. It could just exist. Years later, when I moved out, my mom cried. She told me she was proud of me, that I'd turned out strong. I hugged her and meant it, because I knew she did the best she could with what she had. But sometimes, when I'm at a friend's house and their mom casually asks if I want more tea, or their dad jokes about embarrassing them, I still feel that ache in my chest. The reminder that I grew up holding my breath while others were allowed to just be kids. That's when I realized my childhood wasn't bad. It was just lonely, quiet in the wrong ways. And maybe that's why now I make it a point to fill my home with noise, laughter, music, people I love, because I promised myself long ago I'd never let silence be the loudest sound again.